Hi, book club members. I'm Jen.
And I'm Carrie.
And welcome to Warhammer 40k Book Club, where we read from a crag. This is episode number 61, and our book is Stormcaller. I don't have the actual book. By Wraight. It is about the continued adventures of Yarnhammer after their daring savior question marks quotation marks of Rajshaka from the Death Guard. We posted several questions on our website WH40kbookclub.com, and we encourage participation in our discussions via Twitter, our YouTube, our site, or Encrypted Vox channel. Spoiler warning: if you haven't yet read this book, go to the site, check out the book and the questions, and then come back to this podcast, as we're going to be discussing it from start to finish in great detail. Unlike the other book, I feel like there are some plot points in here that you probably wouldn't want spoiled if you haven't read it.
Yeah.
Maybe. Especially vis-a-vis one particular character. Oh man. Did you like this book?
I did. I enjoyed it.
Once again, I liked parts of it. I have very mixed feelings on this book. I liked it more than the last book. I felt like there was a lot more going on in this one. But I'm not gonna lie, a lot of it did not sit very well with me. It was a bit of a struggle, and I had like a lot of time in an airport to kill yesterday because I was part of that Southwest kerfuffle. Yeah. And I had trouble reading it. Like, I had to go back and reread parts because it was like, I totally did not focus on this.
Oh no, like when I got to a certain part, like it was hard to put down.
Which part? I'm curious.
When you find out what happens to Deshatelaine.
I knew you were going to like that part. So what
I didn't like it.
It was so what part stood out to you?
I think I just said it. The Deshatelaine, because that was so out of left field.
I was.
First of all, I wasn't familiar with the penitent machines, the penitent engines to begin with. And I don't know why it shocks me that they would use like real people in them, because seriously, isn't that kind of how like the Titans and everything goes as well, right? So,
well,
but
yes, but the penitent engines, there is something so hateful about the penitent engines. Like, you and I have talked a lot about the Sisters the Repentia. Mm-hmm. And like the Repentia, it's kind of crazy, right? Where you just put on basically like a linen shift and run in to fight for the Emperor. And if you live, great. You now can come back and rejoin the Adeptus Sororitas because you have done your penitence. And if you die, thank you for your service. You died for the Emperor. Like that, it's very melodramatic, but okay. Penitent engine is a whole other level of what? I really struggle with them because you know that I do like the Adeptus Sororitas, but the penitent engines that's their circus and their monkey.
So like, is it typically a punishment? Or oh, okay.
Oh yeah.
Well, that just makes it even worse. Because at least the dreadnoughts, like, you know, that this is how they died once, but now they can die again in service of the Emperor. And the Titans, like most of the princeps want to be there. Like this is like their choice. I had no idea. It's
typically reserved for like the worst heretics or those who have done something just unspeakably terrible. So the fact that now, having said that, there could be something, and I'm not justifying this, but there could have been something behind closed doors that Deshatelaine said or did. But I think we both
sincerely doubt it.
I think we both know that the Cardinal just wanted to send a message. You let your planet fall.
But it wasn't even really that. It's like he got his little retinue of sisters, who I'm pretty convinced were brainwashed.
You know what? I have to believe that they were.
I think it was like, it was some comment, I think, that even Kalia made, or somebody made, that they felt the taint of oh, what was it? Something like mind melding, or not mind melding, but mind control. So,
Well, for me, it was the comment when you actually get to see it from Delvo's point of view, and he talks about how, like, look, Nuria never even bats an eye because I am holy. Like, I don't know if it's literal brainwashing by him or if it's more of, like, the brainwashing of or just the fiery tear.
There's something. Just because someone did make a comment about it that they could sense it on them. It might have been Clave.
It might have been.
Not even the Cardinal, because really near the end I couldn't tell who was really the bad person. Was it the Cardinal? Was it the Clave? Was Clave...
I think it's both.
Well, yeah, I think, Clave is like, he was kind of like the Erebus, just kind of feeding the flames there. But if the Cardinal wasn't already had tendencies toward that... I mean, I loved his how he reconciled it all in his mind, because he's like, everyone mocks me because, I fell to these vices. And he even talks about how it's unfair to punish him for these vices. And he's like, when it's all there, like, how am I supposed to not get fat and do all these things? It's like, well, you just don't. I don't know what else to tell you. So by him taking the reins here and making, a statement, that somehow reconciles the vices that he's fallen to. It's like, nice try, buddy.
But he has to have a justification,
right?
It's not that I'm disgustingly corrupt. Anyone in my position would have been disgustingly corrupt,
exactly.
And I think we had that conversation, especially in light of, like, when all of Jeffrey Epstein's connections and stuff came out, right? Just this idea that, like, apparently you just reach a level of power and wealth where it's just impossible to not be that corrupt and not be that disgusting. And this actually kind of bridges us into the question of, what did you make of the Cardinal? Like, when you kind of get that inner working of him, when he talks about it, he's like, look, the Sisters of Battle don't even blink an eye when I'm like, bring me more food, bring me wide-eyed youths, like, just bring me whatever. And they just do it because I am the Holy One. Ew.
Well,
but also, ecclesiarchy.
Right. Well, I have to jump back to Deshatelaine, because I think what he was doing there, because, like, Sister Nuria, I think it's how you pronounce her name. Not sure. Mm-hmm. Doesn't matter.
That's what I was going with.
All right. But when he's questioning Deshatelaine and he has her drag these frightened, like, peasants, like, you can't tell me that they said that on their own volition. She was kicking him down the stairs, basically, to make him say this stuff, and he was going to say anything to make it stop.
Of course.
So,
but I think he also was just vindictive, and I think he wanted someone to blame.
I think the thing is, though, Clave got in his head. He wanted to make a statement, the justification for what he is, and he's going to make an example out of somebody, and he didn't care how. So this is how he did it. This was going to be his reasoning for taking over the planet.
Well, which they ended up not even doing. Like, so the thing with Deshatelaine, it was deeply upsetting to me, and I was so happy in the end that she gets that little redemption arc.
Oh my God. That was great.
I do like when, and it always seems to involve the wolves at some level, just the surprising escalation of violence, right? Like, I think back again to the Emperor's Gift. And Logan Grimnar just kills that Inquisitor, and you're like, what just happened? This is the same thing, right? They're getting ready, and then all of a sudden, the Penitent Engine just kills him and does not stop killing him.
Right.
Yes. Like, that was surprising, but also really good. And Kalia, I love Kalia, and I do like when you're under is like, I was kind of starting to think of them as allies.
Right.
Like, they all, and I loved how angry Gunlager was about it.
Mm-hmm.
When he sees him, like, yeah.
Yeah, because it's Stormcaller that has to, like, calm him down. It's like, we don't want to start a war. And that's probably, it was probably the Emperor's Gift yeah, that really kind of made me start to like the Space Wolves, in that out of all the legions, I mean, you could say there's other legions, but the Space Wolves really care about mortal beings. I mean, you can make the argument, yes, the Ultramarines do too, but the Ultramarines, it's not all of them, right? Because we saw it with issues with some of the Primaris. They're like, oh, they're so beneath us. And, you know, Marnie as Calgar, yes, he's very much, and this is who we're supposed to be protecting and all that. But the Space Wolves, like, genuinely care. The Emperor's Gift, we need to kill them all because they saw this. I'm like, excuse? They did nothing wrong.
No.
They just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time, so we're going to kill them all because why? Oh, because we said so. No. And it's the same thing here, you know, because Gunlogger actually, you know, he developed like a bond with Chatelaine. He's like, yeah, but where is she? I want to talk to her. And then he sees where she is. He's like, oh, you did not. Like, she didn't deserve this. Like,
no.
She did not do anything wrong to deserve this. She did what she thought was best at the time. And even if that fails, that doesn't make you a fucking heretic.
No. And again, like, what hit me and made me really doubly angry about it is when Olgira is talking with the people on the planet, and he's like, look, you can't fight the Death Guard. Their spores will drop down, it will make people sick, and it will spread. This is not Cornite berserkers who, yeah, some people might go crazy and get corrupted, or Slanesh, where you might get like a cult buildup, right? Tzeentch, you don't know who to trust. This is contagion. Just pure and simple contagion, and you as human beings are not going to fight this. You just aren't. That one in particular, like, I was like, if anyone should know this, like, it made me so much angrier about the Chatelaine's punishment, because again, he's not wrong. What did you want her to do? Go out there and be like, sorry, Death Guard, you can't land here.
Right. And like, you know, because like what that one guy says, like, she let all those, you know, people that were infected in. First of all, she didn't know. Secondly, that's the kind of what the Death Guard do. It's not like as soon as you get sick, you immediately, like, your body turns inside out. You know, it's a slow process, and they do that on purpose.
It's insidious. Yes. They absolutely do it on purpose. Again, it's insidious, and it's meant to be insidious. It just, so angry.
I was like, this is why people have problems with the church. I mean, not just the ecclesiarchy, but with the church. Like, even today's church. I mean, I'm not saying that in today's church we make people independent and engines, but man, I think I might bail out of Christianity if that was actually going on. But you know, but when you have this type of corruption with the priests and people who are supposed to be like, let's look at the Catholic Church with like the boys, you know, the
Catholics.
Huh?
Said, why you got to pick on the Catholics?
Just because they had the biggest scandal for the longest time, and it was.
Oh, is that all?
I mean, I'll start writing you a dissertation here if that's really what you want.
No,
but
it's true.
It's like these people that you're supposed to respect, and it goes all the way to the bishops and then the cardinals. All this is going on. It's why people have trust issues. People have trust issues, and
it is. And this is.
And as religious as I am, whenever the ecclesiarchy shows up, I'm just like, oh my God, how are they going to fuck this up today?
So on one hand, bridging over to like just the cardinal in general, his chapters were the ones that I struggled with the most, because I think I even said to you, like, from the moment he's introduced, could he have twirled his mustache any harder? He might as well have shown up with a sign that said, hi, I'm corrupt and evil. Nice to meet you, corrupt and evil. We're Space Wolves.
The only thing I'll say about that, though, is that, but he wasn't the man behind the full plan. He was in many ways a puppet.
He was, very much so. And we'll talk about that here in a sec, because I really want to talk about his and Clave's relationship dynamic. Not to imply that there was like a relationship.
Maybe there was.
I'm not here to judge. I'm not here to kink shame.
I'm just saying.
But unless the Emperor's children are involved, and then I'm going to kink shame all the days long. But like flush chairs, that deserves to be.
I mean,
shamed,
there's
y'all.
kink, and then there's Emperor's children kink. I mean,
exactly that. But he just, and I kind of understood once he starts talking about how he's like, look, I not only am I super powerful, you will listen to me and you will respect me, or be branded a heretic. And in this universe, being branded a heretic is pretty much a death sentence.
oh, it's the Salem witch trials.
Basically, yes. And it's very, very difficult to argue with that. Like, you kind of look at him and you're like, shit. But it does disappoint me, right? Because obviously Kalia was able to look at him and be like, no. Chatelaine looked at him and was like, no. The Space Wolves. But the Space Wolves have a little bit of more of a power dynamic going on to be like,
Church
no.
really hates the Space Wolves.
That's so that's another plot point that I'm getting a little tired of. I get it. I know, and I understand. And it is kind of what makes the wolves so interesting and fun, right? Is that nobody likes them. They really don't. But I got that memo.
I think
so. Of course, when he was like, "I don't care about the wolves," and I don't care. We'll kill them all. I don't care.
I don't know. I think Reboot likes the wolves. He sees
probably in as much as he can.
Well, I mean, he sees their purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And wasn't it him who said, never underestimate like Russ when it comes to being smart or something like that? It was Reboot. Like he knows.
Yep. Oh, he knows. He absolutely knows. So you have this man who's super, super powerful and is wielding just, first off, that's the other thing too, that I'm like, this is problematic when he's like, oh, we're just going to exterminatus the planet. You can't. You're not the Inquisition. So we'll call it a cleansing. Like, we'll use a different terminology.
I love the semantics.
That, I was like, holy crap, that is like straight up corruption, and you've just admitted that to the Space Wolves. Additionally, I would like an explanation. I'm going to need the Pepe Silva string map and Charlie Day to explain to me how this man is able to have an army. And I'm sure it's semantics. I have no doubt it's semantics. It's not an army. It's a guard retinue. But
I also
that
have
had me salty.
A little question about
a question.
They showed up at a very opportune time. What if, like, it was like they were already on their way there, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So they didn't know the Death Guard was there. So what reason were they going to use to take over the planet without the Death Guard there? They were just going to pull something out of their asses?
Oh, we're going to talk about that later. Because actually, we can dive into that with Clave. What is he looking for?
I have no idea, and I'm dying to know.
Is it related to what Bajola was looking for?
Definitely.
What the hell is going on in this planet?
I'll tell you what, if they don't cover it in Helwinter Gate, I'm going to storm Chris Wraight's Twitter. Like,
I will be very disappointed.
Answers.
I need answers at this point. So actually, when they were like, oh, okay, we're leaving Rashaka because we're going to go take on the Space Hulk, I was like, okay, but we're not like leaving Rashaka, right? Oh, no, we're leaving it. But y'all found stuff. Like, how?
But that was Stormcaller's call, right?
Very much Stormcaller's call. But, and I understand too, because the Space Wolves like, oh, is the Ecclesiarchy up to no good? Moving on. They don't care. All right, that's not our problem. I can't. Not our circus, not our monkey. But like I need to know. But like I need to know, and I'm sure they're going to go into it in Helwinter Gate because they're taking off with Clave, right? But
right,
because they keep hinting
because
there's corruption on the planet.
Well, right, but because they need Clave. Because I'm pretty sure Clave has a connection to what happened to their
very much so
their Jarl.
Mm-hmm. But
Horter. Hjorter?
Hjorter. I have to ask.
Hodor.
Do we? No. I don't know if I really care. Like, I'm gonna go ahead and. The answer's gonna have to be pretty compelling because right now I look at it and I'm like, okay.
I need to know who killed him.
This group.
I need
to
know,
what end?
I need to know who they are and why, because when they took off like their hoods, they're like, "Do you know who we are?" And he's just like, "Yeah, okay." You know, these are things I need to know. I care more about that than what's ever going on with Balder.
Ooh.
And so that kind of brings me around to like, really, so like this book to me was all about hypocrisy and semantics.
So let's talk about y'all.
No, kind of. Let's talk about Stormcaller with the whole rune priest and the that Death Guard. It was just like, you guys say it's something different, but it's really not. And y'all's like, nah, I know better because I experienced it. It's like, well, of course you're going to defend yourself. It's semantics. And you're hypocrites.
Kind of. Here's the thing that I will say, and this is why I totally am, I side with Njal on this. Because if you notice, it's very interesting to me that the Space Wolves, all of their psychic stuff really does revolve around like storm stuff, right? Lightning and ice and stuff like that. Like they're almost more akin to like the benders from Avatar, like the water benders, right? Like they can only really, their psychic manifestation only appears in this one way. Whereas we've seen from the Thousand Sons and we've seen from the Death Guards, they're all over the place. Now maybe it's because the Space Wolves are so restrained and try to keep it so... Like, they try to stick into one lane because they realized, unlike the Thousand Sons, they weren't so arrogant to be like, just do whatever you want, fam. Touch everything, just play with everything. Talk to those weird creatures, it's all good.
I strongly believe that the wolves, maybe not the wolves now, but the wolves back then, they knew how dangerous the warp was, so they concentrated it for these runes so they could only focus on the elemental aspects. That's how they control it. You know, like if you want to get into like for example, like in Marvel, you know, that reason why Thor had the hammer was to control his abilities.
To focus.
Right. It the same thing here. It's still semantics. Do you want to say like, oh, but we're not sorcerers? Yes, you are. You're just using it in a different way. And it's just me just be like, stop thinking you guys are better than everybody else, because you're not. You're still using the warp. You're just using it in a different way. Just admit it to yourself what you're doing, and then we can all be happy, and you guys won't be such hypocrites and won't be so holier than thou. That's like my biggest issue with the Space Wolves.
Couldn't use that same semantic argument though with like the police. Like, you guys are using guns. The murderers use guns. You're killing people. You are the same as the criminals because you're using the same weapons. You just have the semantics of a different title.
It's the intent, right?
Yeah, you could. I guess maybe. Because you could make that argument. I don't know.
Because we can always go into intent here, as well. You know, with the Space Wolves. Well, we're using it on this side, the side of the police, and the Thousand Sons are the side of the murderers. I mean, it's really all in how you're using it, right? Because you could also say the criminals, what are they using? They may be using fully automatic weapons. I can't name on top of my head. Or whereas the police are, maybe they're using their 9mm and maybe their M16s. More controlled weapons versus the criminals.
Right. It's one of those things that I go back and forth on, because on one hand I'm like, is the defense of it, especially with Njal, like, is the defense of it that you are so reserved and you are so cautious of it. I love the idea of it being like the dark wolf hunting them, right? Like this manifestation of you could have more power, right? I guess going back to, I'm sure there's a drinking game for this podcast by now, but going back to Dragon Age, the difference between the mages and the magisters, right? The blood magic usage, where it's like one, if you look at the circle, very, very restrained, and quoting Vivienne, magic is dangerous, and those who forget that get hurt, get burned. Right?
Well, I mean, it's like what Iskander said. You know,
oh, yes.
I mean, very much so. He's like, you know, we use the warp, we don't trust it. And it's the same thing like what Vivienne was saying. Yes, we use magic. You can't trust it, and you have to respect it.
Right. Very much so.
Same thing like guns. If we're going to, you know, go in that route, you have to respect it. You just can't be brandishing it about, because that's how people shoot themselves in the pants. Like, gosh, what's that football player's name? I forget. Played for the Colts.
He was from Denver. Oh, a guy from Denver did it too.
Plexico Burris. That's who did it.
Oh, no, I was thinking of... My husband would know this off the top of his head. But there was also a very famous incident with the Bronco who supposedly shot himself in the leg. Anyways, but it is one of those arguments that every time I see it, and I like Njal. I really like him as a character. The Cyber Raven is...
Okay, the Cyber Raven is amazing. I'm not saying I don't like Njal. I like him. I totally know why he's there. I totally understand his point of view. He's just being stubborn. And it's because like this is the way that they've been taught. And, like, it's not his fault. It's just the way that I think this happened since Nicaea. They had to really set their ways. Like I'm happy to blame everything on Othere, because I hated him, and I was so happy when Ahriman ripped his soul out of him and tossed it to a demon, because seriously, that guy was such a I have very little patience for people who betray confidences, and that just killed me with Othere.
So I disagree wholeheartedly with you on that, because I actually hate the Thousand Sun.
Mm-hmm.
But having said that, it is very interesting when Njal says that Oathbreakers are lower than beasts.
I mean, I agree with him.
I agree with him too, but I actually have to give you a point in your argument's favor there with that one, because that was an oath broken. Having said that, the thing about Njal, and this is the part where I understand where he's coming from, is that when you look at the Death Guard guy, right? Oh my gosh.
The mycelite. Mycelite.
Almost said myceline like it's a chemical. But when you look at the mycelite, like, pretty much, when you look at him, right, and he's just disgusting and corrupted by the warp, and he's like, we're like the same thing. No.
Right. I mean, no. I mean, again, it's almost kind of like the police versus the criminal, right? We're exactly the same.
Exactly.
No, not so much. No.
There's some nuance here maybe that we're forgetting. But I hear you, and I feel you on that. And it is a little... Njal... What did you think of Njal letting them escape?
Did he let them escape?
Pretty much.
Or did he decide it's not worth his time?
Well, remember when he has them call off the guns because Callia's looking at them. Like, oh, we sense a ship leaving you. And he's like, don't shoot them. And then he kind of like does the math, and he's like, we could shoot them. Like, we could just be like, oh, whoops. But he's like, I just can't. Like, I find it so interesting with the Space Wolves in general that there is this like this rebelling against authority, right? And this chafing against the rules, and this very much like dogs, right? I mean, they very much are kind of like animals. I found that very interesting with Njal. But also I did like that he was super fallible. I was actually thinking that maybe he sent Baldur in there because he knew that something was going to happen, but when he's like, okay, I messed up there.
Right.
When he says that, I was like, oh, shoot. He's not infallible. I mean, not that I thought he was infallible, but you know what I mean. Like, I guess I kind of expected him to be a little wiser. I don't know.
I would have
Especially with the way
expected
it's warm.
him to be more arrogant about it and be like, I didn't make a mistake. Like, y'all, someone else done messed up, you know. But I appreciated that he owned up his mistake.
I find the Cardinal's reaction to Niall very interesting. I did like that he got a little scared about him at that one point.
Right.
Especially when Gunlager nearly kills him and he just grabs Gunlager, and that's when suddenly the Cardinal's like, oh, like I was just sassing this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I always find that particular dynamic a little weird because, as he said, he's like, look, we're the Emperor's angels to them. We're supposed to be, at least.
Right.
And the Cardinals, no. Njal surprises me every time he shows up in a story. I'm always like, he has more depth than I expected, I guess.
Well, isn't that
We're
like
going
the
to
big
that.
secret, like with some of the space wolves, though? I mean, like, look at, you know, Ragnar Blackmane. You know, even Lucas, the trickster. He has
A lot more depth to them.
That's probably all going to be, like, retconned. But
I think a lot of stuff with Lucas over the years has probably been retconned, though, to be fair.
which I mean, McGav Thorpe kind of tapped into it too with Ashes of Prospero, that there's a little deeper side. So I kind of hope that maybe, you know, that aspect will stay.
Right.
But yeah, there's also another example about the Rebellious Authority, and that what Lucas always does is why he's never been promoted to a Grey Hunter, even though he's like, I'm perfectly happy with what I'm doing here, that I'm basically training these Blood Claws to move up, and then y'all kick me out because I keep playing pranks because I can't help it, and I go somewhere else and then fix those Blood Claws. So there is a like you said, the idea of rebelling, because isn't that what happens with wolf packs anyway? The wolves grow up, they leave, form their own packs. Otherwise, you get like a whole bunch of inbreeding.
There is that too. So let's talk about the Mycelite. Was that what you were expecting?
No.
When he kept saying, me either. I was not expecting it to just be like a guy, just like a dude. I also wasn't expecting it to be a Terran. I don't know what it is, but whenever I find out that one of the Traitor Marines was one of the Terran born, I'm always like so disappointed in you.
Right, we expect it from the other planets, but not the Terrans, because you guys literally walked with the Emperor.
And like when Vorks talks about that, when he's like, look, if you were on Barbarous,
Right.
you were loyal, period. And I get that.
Yes,
But
100%.
the Terrans, I'm like, oh.
I mean,
That
they're not
sucks.
all like Astalon from the Dark Angels, who the Lion just tosses aside, because then you understand that.
Ew.
Yeah.
And you understand, yeah, there's a lot of that kind of stuff where you're like, kind of getting it here, guys.
Yeah, but you would think that he'd side with Garrow, but, you know.
You would think so. He had a lot of information to impart, which makes me like the Death Guard. Every time Chris Wraight has a Death Guard character, I just like the Death Guard even more and more. He's definitely using some sorcery when he's talking to Baldur, but he had just a lot of... It reminded me a lot of Interview with a Vampire. Hence... Like, it really reminded me of that because he just had a lot of information to impart, didn't he? And all these opinions. I think my favorite little nugget that he threw out when he was like, we don't lie. The Death Guard, it's an old habit. Like, we're here to win the war, not small battles with tiny little falsehoods.
Mm-hmm.
But I did like when he's like, we left the lying to other legions. It was like, oh, really? I think we know who you're pointing at. That kind of made me wonder too. With Alfarius, that when he said that he didn't like Rogaldorn because he didn't lie, and he's like, "How can you trust a dude who doesn't lie?" Wonder how they felt about the Death Guard. I just kind of want Mike Brooks to write an entire book about Alfarius, giving his opinion on every single one of his brothers and their legions.
Oh, we got some.
We got some, we did, But I would like, but like there were some that were notably missing, and I would have liked to have had.
Gosh, as much as I love Reboot Guilliman, I've made no bones about it. I
You
loved
like the
Alferis. I know, right? I loved Alferis' assessment of Guilliman. It cracked me up because I can't argue with it.
Can't even remember what it was now.
Oh, I'm sure.
I remember it was funny.
I'm sure I wrote this down in my notes.
Probably.
Because I was laughing so dang hard. Continue.
Oh, yes. Okay, then. I liked that, though. And I liked when he talks about, like, when he's explaining with the wolves, and he's like, you guys are using the same magic. We are all made of warp stuff. It is horribly hypocritical because we're all made of this. And surely you feel this. Like, we're all the same people. And he's like, that's why Nakia was doomed to fail. But I don't know why, but I always love when the Traitor Marines just start dropping Heresy-era information to the modern Marines. Like, like at Nikea. Which, of course, Baldur is like, what the hell is he talking about? Because he doesn't know what a Nikea is. He doesn't know what the Council of Nikea is.
No. Why would he?
But right, exactly. But I like the way that he's talking about it, like, Like, and I don't know if it's because he's basically flaunting, like...
Dang it, I didn't write it down.
I don't know if he's flaunting this information that he has that nobody else has, or if he doesn't know that they don't have it, or he just doesn't care. He's just like, meh, this is why Nikea I don't give a crap if you know what I'm talking about. Probably the latter there. I was very disappointed that it was a wolf's ship. I did like when he's like, I like the name Festerax. That's a nice name. But that's not the ship's original name.
I kind of liked that reveal. I was like, oh, didn't see that coming.
It made me so sad. I know that there's a lot of traders that fly on previously not trader ships, but I always get sad when they reveal they're like, oh yeah, this encrusted Hulk used to be one of yours. I'm always like...
Well, it's not even just that. It's like when he, like, pulls back the curtain and you see just the bodies. They're still hanging there with their souls are still in place, and yeah, they're manipulating them to fly the Hulk. That's just great.
So awful. So awful. So awful. I still don't know how I felt about that. I did like, though, when Baldur realizes it, and when he's like, when the Mycelate is like, why do you think it's been calling to you? And he's like, oh, right. By the way, I was like, I know that you have this quote somewhere. You had it in your Primarch Pilgrimage article. Guilliman has a tendency to put the hackles of others up due to his belief that not only has he solved the problems of warfare, but that he can write it down while he does so. Pretty much. And Spacebook says that acknowledgement is bad. But, moving on. I don't know why, but because the ship's like, I think it's because of the whole thing of like, in the Grimdark future, so much has been lost, never to be regained. Like, that ship is irreplaceable.
Right.
And you guys turned it to crap, like literally.
Well, it's a Death Guard. They turn everything to crap.
It's true, and you merged it with Wraithbone.
It's like they got the reverse Midas touch.
Right? They have, like, not a green thumb. Or I guess actually a green thumb.
Oh, it is kind of a green thumb.
Bad one. Yeah. But that, like, with the Wraithbone, too, like, I don't even like Wraithbone. It's a little bit of a trigger issue for me after reading the Fabius Bile series. I'm kind of like, But, yeah. When they showed, like, the dying Wraithbone, even then, I was like, oh, that's sad.
I mean, for you guys to be able to make Wraithbone die, that's amazing.
Right, congratulations, you figured out a way to kill it. I did also like when he talked about seeing the goddess chained. And then Baldur is like, oh, I did see the goddess chained, too. That's always one of those really really awful little tidbits about Nurgle that hits me in a weird feel place where I'm like,
Okay, I don't know what you're talking about.
and of course, now that we're talking about this, I can't think of her name. It's like Isha or Ish something. Somebody will have the name for me. But it's the goddess of life from the Eldari. He has her chained, Nurgle has her chained in his garden and tests his diseases and stuff on her. And basically kills her, and then, like Prometheus,
Right.
she then re-heals, and he just keeps doing it to her. It's awful.
Okay, that's... Huh. All right.
I'm so happy that I just imparted this little... Now you can keep that little chestnut in your brain, too, and every now and then be like...
You know, because I actually meant to ask you about that. I was like, what are they talking about here?
Yeah,
Okay.
he has her chained up, which is the most Nurgle thing to happen.
You know, when Papa E was, like, burning down the garden, why couldn't he just set her free?
Seriously, well, she's an Eldari goddess, so I'm sure he's just like,
Yeah,
no.
but he sets her free.
Not my problem.
And she owes him a favor.
That could be, actually. Oh, it is just Isha. So Nurgle rescued her from Slanesh, and then just imprisoned her.
Rescued her.
Yeah.
Out of the frying pan and into the fire.
I think more of from Megamind. I wouldn't say rescued, more like under new management. Like, whoops. Yeah, and again, it's one of those little details that so 40k. It's just so 40k, and it's so awful. Let me ask you this: is the Traveler still coming? I mean, Typhus doesn't strike me as the type of guy who's going to be like, oh, did they miss that planet? Never mind, not worth my time. I mean, when you got that guy going, the Traveler is coming. Like, I bet not Gozer, the Traveler, Typhus.
I know, I'm already thinking the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man, so.
But, that would arguably be better than Typhus?
Cover everything in sticky marshmallow goo. I mean, still kill everything, but...
And to be fair, is it really that different than Nurgle? It's going to be sticky. It's going to be gross in a few days.
Kind of snotty feeling. I
A
mean...
lot of flies showing up and rats. Oh,
ants.
Gross.
That is how you get ants.
Do you want ants? That is definitely how you get ants. That's how you get warp ants.
Warp ants.
Nobody wants warp ants. Nobody wants Nurgle ants. Nobody wants anything with Nurgle. But they keep hinting. I feel like the series keeps hinting that there's a secret on the planet of Rashaka. And
well, yeah, that's what everyone's going after, and that's what I need to know in Helwinter Gate.
And that Typhus seems awfully interested in it.
I did like how the Mycelite called Typhus by his first name.
Did you notice that as well?
Yeah. And I have to say, if it wasn't for Luther, I wouldn't have known what he was talking about, but yeah. That was it's like, oh, you guys were friends.
You guys weren't, you were not just some subordinate Death Guard dude. You guys were friends. You know this man.
But wasn't Typhus also Terran?
That goes back and forth. Skywatcher Adept, this is a call to you, my friend, because I would have sworn years ago that I read that he was Terran, but then I would have sworn there's another story that says he's Barbaran. So...
Because I thought I remembered reading in Flight of the Eisenstein that he was Terran. That's one reason why he had no loyalty to Mortarion.
Correct. I thought I remember reading that too, but there is a book, I'm pretty sure, that says he's from Barbarous. I think that underwent a retcon or a change. And I don't know if it was an intentional retcon or if it was like one author was like, he's Terran, and another was like, nah, he's Barbaran, and they were just like, we're going with Barbaran. I don't actually know, because you're very much correct. Because Vork's also kind of hints at that when he talks about how he's like, look, this is why we don't like Typhon, because if you were from Barbarous, yeah. And it would actually make sense for him to be Terran along with this dude who was Terran. I did like when he was a little smug about it, when he was like, I was born on the throne world. You weren't. It's like, oh, weird flex, but okay.
Right.
Kind of a strange thing to be smug about.
Well.
But I think this just makes me more curious. What the hell is going on that planet? Oh, I did
have
also
questions.
I did like when he was like, oh, by the way, something big's coming and it's going to start Acadia. Because this book was written in what, 2014, 2016?
All right, so the
Before the
Warhammer
fall of
40k wiki says he's from Barbarous.
Okay.
I call shenanigans.
We all. I would have sworn. Hold, please. Is that the one where they usually have... By the way, I will say that Terminus Est is like a badass name for a ship. Like, I generally love a lot of the names. Like Vengeful Spirit is an amazing name for a ship.
Is
I
death.
like good ship names. Yeah, pretty much.
Is death.
I absolutely love that. Just amazing. I will have to look and see, or maybe hold on.
Okay, well, according to this, Typhon possessed the blood of the mutant Psyker warlords that had ruled the planet before being defeated by Mortarion. Maybe that's why he hates Mortarion.
Okay, I had to go to because I was like, I know that this is out there somewhere. Lexicanum says, Typhus was originally said to have been born on Barbarous, but the Lion, the novella by somebody, mentions he practiced as a librarian in the Dusk Raiders Legion before Mortarion assumed control and named it the Death Guard. This implies he must have been from Terra. However, the short story Demonology mentions Mortarion spent an unspecified time on Terra between being rediscovered by the Emperor and assuming command, so it's possible that he could have come from Barbarous. Let's see. Oh, and then the novel The Buried Dagger again rewrites Typhon's backstory by putting him as a native of Barbarous and being a human overlord hybrid.
Right, that's what this is saying.
Which I actually friggin' hate that whole idea. And yeah, so there's also a bunch of retcon about whether or not he was a psyker or a librarian before all of this happened. So, you know what? He's just officially the Joker. His backstory is multiple choice.
He's the Joker. Does that mean that there's 3 of them?
No. It also means that Jared Leto...
DC jokes.
Yes. Deep cut DC anger. It also does not mean that Jared Leto will ever play him. Don't at me. Florida Joker is not a thing. Anyways. So, moving on.
Now I really want a Florida Typhus.
Isn't that what he already is? Have you ever been to a swamp, y'all?
I actually have not.
I have. Spent a lot of time down there as a kid. So.
I have never been to Louisiana.
Oh, well, you're not missing much. But yeah, all you have to do is go alligator fishing or catfishing once, and you're good for the rest of your life from swamps.
No,
They stink.
Gator is tasty.
Gator's delicious, guys. But swamps are gross. So really, kind of whenever they describe the Death Guard, I just picture this one area we used to go to. Not important.
Are you saying that they're like walking swamps? I mean, it checks out.
They're kind of swamp people.
That explains why you like them.
Shoot, it kind of does. Actually, I'm not going to lie. I was kind of down with the description of the Mycelite. When they talk about him looking kind of reptilian, and when he sits down, he's kind of like a toad. I was like, this is all working for me. I just like the way Chris Wraight writes them. He really does make them... I don't like them. I don't support them. They're disgusting. I don't like them. Like, I'm not like, yeah, go Death Guard. But because they're against the Emperor and they are bad. Okay. But I just find them fascinating and I love his take on them. However, let's talk about the wolves now. Do you like Ingvar more or less as a protagonist after this book? He's mostly the protagonist. It's kind of split.
I do like him, and that he's just so loyal. He's so loyal, and at the same time he's so focused, which can make him seem like he's not loyal because he is so focused.
Yeah.
I think he's got too much of the Death Watch in him.
Right.
And he keeps, looking to Callimachus's counsel instead of the wolves. So do I think the Ultramarine would do what he's doing? Yes. 100%. And the Ultramarines, they'd be kind of pissy with it. They might send him on it, but as long as he wasn't totally breaking the codex, they might be okay. It depends on what was going on.
Callimachus would have asked for within the Ultramarines. I think the Ultramarines would have argued the case for permission. I don't think they would have been like, peace. We're busting our buddy out of jail, even though he should definitely be killed.
Technically, Ingvar did ask permission. He told Gunlauger what he was going to do, and Gunlauger could have stopped him, and did not.
That is true, but he even says, he's like, look, there'll be no forgiveness for this. Right? It's interesting to me that they basically choose to become that tight brotherhood over this. It's like their brotherhood was kind of shattered, and then they decide to basically break all together.
In the name of Balder.
For Balder. Yes, exactly.
And I may change my mind about everything, in the third book when it's revealed, really what Balder, I'm really kind of tired of them dancing around what he is, what his powers are. Okay, yes, Space Wolf's it's sorcery. Well, apparently it's not entirely,
right.
You guys also call every little thing sorcery, so that's
true.
Let's just calm down there. But, it turns out that, he's I don't know, got some possession going on. I don't know. Everything might change depending on how I feel. I have this feeling that Helwinter Gate will, since they're trying to get redemption, forgiveness for what they're finding, to come back, has this big feeling Baldur's not going to come back with them one way or another.
I agree with you. And I'm kind of with you. I was very interested in the first book. I was very interested in the second book. I found the whole scene with the Mycelite fascinating when he was nowhere and everywhere. Mm-hmm. And control the ship, and he could feel that. And the Mycelite was like, this is what you're for. I've never seen anything like this. You're very rare. This is super awesome. And I'm like, that's cool. But my first thought was, didn't we go through the song and dance last book? With will he be corrupted? Will he be saved? If we end up having to do the whole will he be corrupted? Will he be saved in the third book, I will be a little grumpy.
I just need someone to define the relationship here, because I'm just so sick and tired of, that one librarian was like, do they not know what you are? Well, can you enlighten the rest of the class, please?
Would you care to tell everyone?
And then Mycelite was the same thing. He's like, this is what you're meant for. This is what you're supposed to do. Okay, what? What does
asking for a friend?
What does that mean?
Right. And I did like when he had the thought where he was like, I am awakened. All I thought of was Dune. Father, the sleeper has awakened. If at some point they decide that he is the Kwisatz Haderach, I will both be angry and very excited at the same time. All of a sudden he yells at one of the Sisters of Silence or something like that. I don't know. But Dune references
that I don't get.
Sorry.
It's fine.
I can't believe you haven't even seen the movie.
Really? We're going to have this discussion. You're shocked I haven't seen a movie.
Fair. It sounds weird when you say it that way, though. Like, I should have known.
Except that, true story, we discovered there is a movie I have seen and she has not over the weekend.
Oh, right. Which one was it again?
I think it had Colin Firth in it. Bridget Jones' Diary.
Oh, yes! Yes, because I did not enjoy the book. But that was actually kind of cool. Oh, look at that! Proud of you. I hope they just lean into it and he figures out, like, what are you? What are you? What do you do? Who, what, when, where, why, how? I just need to know all of these things, the 5 W's here. I don't want to tiptoe around it anymore. I want to know what's on the planet. I want to know what's... So,
this is the time I want to know what's in the suitcase that glows.
Yes. Well, and here's the thing, and I'm going to actually lean on an analysis from the Scream series. The third entry of the series is always supposed to be about revelations. Typically, we go back to the beginning and we discover something that we took for granted and we discover was never true, right? Like, we have to go back and do that big revelation. And when you look at most horror movies, when you look at most movie trilogies, there is that thing when you go back, and I need that to happen in this. I need to know what's happening on the planet. I need to know why Typhus is so very interested in this. And I need to know what's going on with Balder. I still like Balder as a character.
Yes.
I was so crushed when he was like talking with the Mycelite and he's like, oh, I know what to say.
Right.
That crushed me. So then when he was like, ooh, whoa, no. My boy Balder. I don't know what I'm gonna like. I need to know, like, it needs to be something really super important and super impactful. Like, if they get down to Hyodor and they're just like, yeah, this one group, they really hate space wolves and they're killing them off slowly but surely. That's it. I'm gonna be a little disappointed.
Me too.
I think I trust Chris Wraight way more than that. Again, you can see the evolution of his writing.
Well, right, and we've also had some time since Stormcaller.
Yes.
Released and Helwinter Gate.
Mm-hmm. Many years.
So he's had some time to at least think on the answers to these questions.
Right. If it ties into Lords of Silence somehow.
Well, that'd just be the icing on the cake, wouldn't it?
10 out of 10 book of the year. I don't care about any of the other stuff. Like, if Vork shows up or gets mentioned, I'm just going to be like, I don't care about anything else. My boy Vorks, unless Vorks dies, in which case Chris Wright wouldn't do that to me. He wouldn't do me dirty like that.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be a sequel
to Lords of Silence. That would be awesome, actually. Yeah, he wouldn't. Anyways, I can't handle that. Here's the thing, though. Like, will vengeance for Hyodor, will that undo this treachery? Because it is basically treachery. Even though Njal kind of lets them go.
I think it depends what happens with Balder, to be perfectly honest.
Probably does, because he says, he's like, their names will be erased from the sagas. These guys are basically dead to us. They're renegade now at this point.
Right.
That's going to make things hard. But here's the bigger question for me, too. Do you think Kalia will go along with their renegade status?
Yes. Because she kind of wanted to go renegade. She was ready to throw down with that cardinal. Like, early on, it was de Chatelaine who was like, no.
We don't want to get involved with that.
Right. He is the one in charge. He is the most holy. Accept this. But when Kalia found out what happened to her, like, that was it. Well, and she was already getting kind of irritated because she couldn't find de Chatelaine. No one would tell her where she was. And so she just happened, to give that special earbud to Yorunder.
I did like that, and I liked that Yorunder kept it.
Mm-hmm.
And that it came in. I also really appreciated that it came into play. And I kind of need more sisters and wolves fighting stuff.
I also really like that Kalia at the end was like, this is the Order of the Wounded Heart.
It is this ship is under control of the Wounded Heart.
Mm-hmm. She started to
is
say fiery
not.
tear, and she's like, nope, wounded heart.
Nope. Nope, we're not doing any of that anymore. Those people are dead. I did like that. I'm only passingly interested in what happens now with that ship, because she's like, okay, another ship's coming into orbit. There's going to be a big conversation here. How did a penitent engine kill a cardinal? Kind of a big deal. Where's the cardinal's dude Clave? Like, there's going to be some questions. They're not going to be able to just bamf away from this and be
Where
like,
did they get these exterminatus bombs?
sure, the Ministorum will be like, pretend I didn't see that. I mean, it's the Ministorum, right? Like, they don't care. Just make it all go away. Right? Just find another cardinal, put him in charge, and
We need to get
moving on with our lives.
We need to get Callie in touch with the Inquisitor.
Right? Get her out there and be like, so there's some weird stuff going on. That's my big thing. I got to the end of this book, and my big thing was, I have a lot of questions I need answers to. I think that was the... Oh, go ahead.
I think my biggest disappointment with the book was that we don't know what Clave was looking for. I at least wanted that answered.
At least a hint. We know that he was looking for data cores. We know that he was looking for information, but on what? And they keep hinting that there is some like ancient corruption on this planet. They had hinted that when they were talking about that one gaudy structure.
Right.
But I need more information. And I think that was, I don't like when you end a book and it's like, well, now I just have more questions than I went in with.
If I wanted that, I'd just watch the Matrix movies.
Well, and it's not, it feels like a Rage or Halo 2 or something that just ends on a, and we're not, sorry.
Halo 2.
I'll bring up, I'll pull off that scab. Right? It's so clearly a cliffhanger. It's so clearly, wait for the next book. Like, if we had read these when they first came out, I might be grumpy about it.
Right.
This has been a long time. I'm not a fan of books that end like that. So I think that was probably my biggest frustration getting to the end of this book.
Right.
I have questions. When are we going to get the answers to this?
Well, not for a little bit, because we're reading another book first before Helwinter Gate.
That is true. And I'm actually really excited for that, because we are diving back into the world of Warhammer Crime with Grim Repast. I'm excited about it.
Me too.
We need some more Grim Noir. It has been a long time since a crime novel came out. I know that we have a short story coming up for our Inquisitor level Patreon.
Right. We got tons of short stories, but I need these.
I need a novel. And I really am getting excited about, this is a Quillen Drask novel. The one that we had read by Chris Wraight was also going to be a series about this detective. So I'm excited. And this is such a superficial note, but this is very similar to the Chris Wraight one too. I really like the blue with the lone investigator and the lone light.
With the blood.
Oh, lots of blood. And this is a new
I
author.
like the Sanguinius statue, because he's judging everybody.
Yes. I really like the style of this. I am just generally very excited for it. So this is going to be, and it'll be good after reading some Space Wolves before we dive into Helwinter Gate, finally.
Yes.
I'm finally going to crack open me beautiful box. Well, I've cracked. Let's be clear. I have cracked it open many times.
Right.
I'm going to actually read the book. Next time we'll make sure it's not a trilogy before we get all excited.
We'll do some more research.
A little more research. Well, I was like, I haven't heard of Chris Wraight Space Wolves books just because it's been a spell.
Right. We knew he wrote some battles novels, but
yes, yeah, not quite like that. Oh my goodness. So yes, definitely join us. Unfortunately, there's not an audio version of this, but definitely join us for this. And then after that, I think actually we're going
to do Helwinter Gate or Twice Dead King.
Our truce.
Mm. Very much
And there will
so.
be an audio version of both of those, I think. So there you go. Very exciting. Do you want to take us out, Carrie?
I sure will. So thank you for listening to the Warhammer 40k book club episode regarding Stormcaller by Chris Wraight. Oops, wrong book. They all look the same. They're all blue. Be sure to join us for our next book. Next book, Grimmer Passing. Now I'll grab the right book, by Mark Collins. We are an unofficial book club and not affiliated with the Black Library or any of its affiliates. You can find both the vidcast and podcast on our website, WH40kbookclub.com. If you like this episode, please like, subscribe, give a review, and all those things to the vidcast on YouTube or the podcast anywhere you get podcasts. Don't forget, we also have a Patreon where we offer 2 different tiers of content for your viewing and listening pleasure. You can learn more about that at patreon.com/WH40kbookclub. Our site also has articles about our adventures in reading other Warhammer 40k books and short stories outside of the book club books. So please stay a while and read from a crack. Good night, everybody.
Good night.